between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. tonight, your body will attempt something remarkable. It will try to run its primary testosterone production cycle, a biological process that happens every single night, in every man, regardless of age. Your Leydig cells will receive the hormonal signal to begin manufacturing testosterone. Your vascular system will attempt to use that testosterone to prime the erectile tissue. And if everything goes as designed, you will wake up tomorrow morning with the kind of firmness that tells you, without any room for doubt, that your body is still operating the way it was built to operate. Here is the part that almost nobody is telling men over 60. That process is failing. Not because the machinery is broken, not because the cells have stopped responding, and not because age has permanently closed a door that once stood wide open. It is failing because by the time 2 a.m. arrives, your body has already run out of the two specific raw materials it needs to complete the job. The factory is running. The workers are there. The equipment is intact. But the supply line went empty hours ago, while you were still awake. And a factory with no raw materials produces nothing. Two specific foods, eaten together in a precise window before bed, restock that supply line before the night shift begins. That is what this video is about. By the time you finish watching, you will know exactly what those foods are, why they work together in a way neither achieves alone, and how to use them starting tonight. Stay with me through the full explanation because the combination is the breakthrough, not the individual ingredients. Men who use one without the other get a fraction of the result. Men who understand the synergy get something completely different. My name is Dr. Mei Anderson. I am a board-certified urologist, and I have spent over 20 years working exclusively with men over 60 on issues of sexual health, erectile function, hormonal vitality, and vascular performance. And I want to be transparent with you about something before we go further, because this channel is built on honesty rather than comfort. For the first decade of my career, I did what most urologists do. I assessed symptoms, wrote prescriptions, and sent men home with something that addressed the surface of the problem, while the underlying issue continued quietly building underneath. My patients came back, still frustrated, still searching, still carrying something they could not name or solve despite doing everything a responsible man does. Seeing their doctor, following the advice, taking the medication as directed. What changed for me was a specific area of research I encountered almost by accident. Not blood flow, not testosterone replacement therapy, sleep physiology. Specifically, what happens to male hormone production during different stages of sleep, and what happens to a man's mornings when that sleep architecture is disrupted, degraded, or simply never given the right biological conditions to run at full capacity. What I found in that research shifted the way I work with this patient population permanently, and it is the foundation of everything you are about to hear. If you are watching this on Vital Health Seniors, and you have not yet subscribed, please do that right now. It is free, it takes 2 seconds, and every week I release content built specifically for men over 60, who refuse to accept that the strongest version of themselves is already in the past. Tap the bell so you are notified the moment the next video drops, because what I am covering in 2 weeks builds directly on what you are learning today, and you will want to be there for it. Now let me show you what is actually happening inside your body while you sleep, because once you understand this clearly, the two foods will make immediate, logical sense, and you will never need to wonder whether you are doing this correctly. Think about your body's testosterone production system the way you would think about a manufacturing facility with a night shift. This factory does not run during the day. It runs at night, specifically during the deepest stages of sleep, what sleep researchers call stage 3 NREM sleep, or slow-wave sleep. Your pituitary gland sends a pulse of luteinizing hormone to the Leydig cells in your testes. That pulse is the start signal. In response, those cells begin synthesizing testosterone using two specific mineral compounds as their primary raw materials. The testosterone produced during this overnight cycle is what shows up in your body when you wake up. It is what drives morning erections, morning energy, morning libido, and the general sense that your body is awake and alive before the day has asked anything of you. When men are in their 30s and 40s, this process runs without interference. The deep sleep is long and uninterrupted. The supply of raw materials is adequate. The factory runs its full shift and men wake up to evidence of that every morning without giving it a second thought. After 60, 3 things are happening simultaneously that collapse this cycle, and almost no one explains all 3 together in a way that actually connects. First, deep sleep becomes shorter and shallower. Stage 3 sleep, where testosterone production is concentrated, shrinks dramatically. The factory's operating hours are cut. Even if everything else is perfect, there is simply less time for the cycle to complete itself. Second, the specific minerals required for testosterone synthesis, zinc for the actual construction of the testosterone molecule, and magnesium for converting that molecule into its free, biologically active form, are being depleted at a rate that diet almost never replaces. Stress burns through them. Poor sleep burns through them. Alcohol strips them. Common medications deplete them faster than most men eat them back. By 10 o'clock at night, the average man over 60 has exhausted his usable zinc and magnesium reserves to levels that cannot sustain a full production cycle. He goes to sleep expecting output from a factory floor that has run out of everything it needs to operate. And third, the overnight anti-inflammatory repair cycle that should be maintaining the health of the small blood vessels responsible for morning erections is running in a degraded state. Chronic low-level inflammation, not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind that accumulates over decades without obvious symptoms, is shortening the window of smooth muscle relaxation and penile tissue during sleep. Even when some testosterone is produced, its ability to translate into physical firmness by morning is compromised because the vessels cannot respond with the speed and force they once did. These 3 problems compound each other in a way that feels, from the inside, like your body simply getting older. Shorter deep sleep means less testosterone production. Less zinc and magnesium means lower quality synthesis during what deep sleep remains. And degraded vascular responsiveness means that even what is produced cannot fully express itself in the tissue where you need it most. Men experience the combined result of all 3 as a gradual dimming. Mornings that are quieter, less alive, less certain, and most accept it because nobody has ever explained the mechanism clearly enough to make it feel solvable. Here is what I need you to hear right now. This is solvable. Not theoretically. Not with a prescription. With 2 specific foods that address all 3 of these problems simultaneously through complementary biological pathways, consumed together in a window before bed that most men currently waste entirely. The first food is pumpkin seeds. Raw, whole unprocessed pumpkin seeds. And I want to tell you why this is not obvious, because if it were, men would already be using it consistently and seeing the results. The reputation of pumpkin seeds in men's health has been almost entirely focused on prostate support. That is how they are marketed, that is what most men know them for. And that framing has caused an extraordinary nutritional tool to be almost completely overlooked for its role in overnight testosterone synthesis. A single 30-gram serving of raw pumpkin seeds, a small, loose palmful, nothing you need to measure precisely, contains approximately 2 milligrams of zinc and 150 milligrams of magnesium. Those are the 2 minerals your testosterone factory depletes by 10 at night. You are not supplementing in some vague, general sense. You are restocking the exact production line that is going to attempt to run in a few hours while you sleep. But what elevates pumpkin seeds beyond a simple mineral source, and what makes them the correct first food in this protocol, is that they also contain a significant concentration of L-arginine, the amino acid that serves as the direct precursor to nitric oxide synthesis inside the endothelial cells lining your blood vessels. While your body is absorbing the zinc and magnesium to support testosterone production, it is simultaneously loading the vascular system with the raw material it needs to support blood flow responsiveness in the penile tissue. You are restocking the manufacturing line and priming the delivery system at the same time. There is a third mechanism that is particularly relevant for men over 60. Pumpkin seeds contain a class of plant compounds called phytosterols, including beta-sitosterol, which measurably reduces the activity of 5-alpha reductase, the enzyme responsible for converting testosterone into DHT, its less sexually functional derivative. Less DHT conversion means more of the testosterone produced overnight stays in the bioactive form that supports libido, erectile response, and the firmness you are working toward by morning. You are not just producing more. You are protecting what you produce from being immediately redirected into a less useful compound. 1 food. 3 simultaneous mechanisms, all operating during the hours when your body is doing its most important hormonal work. And pumpkin seeds alone will begin the process. Some men, particularly those with significant long-term mineral depletion, notice changes within the first week of consistent bedtime use. But in my clinical experience, the improvements plateau without the second food. There is an absorption bottleneck that pumpkin seeds cannot overcome independently, and there is the shortened deep sleep problem. The factory's operating hours, that no amount of raw material can solve on its own. The second food addresses both of those remaining obstacles directly, and when you understand what it does, the pairing will make complete, immediate sense. The second food is Montmorency tart cherry juice. Not sweet cherry. Not mixed berry juice. Not cherry-flavored drink. Montmorency specifically. The variety matters because the concentration of the compounds responsible for this protocol's results is substantially higher in Montmorency than in any other commercially available variety. When you are standing in a grocery store, read the label. Montmorency tart cherry should be the primary listed ingredient. If it is not, it is a different product producing a different result. I understand what some of you are thinking. Tart cherry juice, that is a recovery drink for athletes. Anti-inflammatory. What does it have to do with testosterone and morning erections? Everything. Once you understand what it does to your sleep architecture specifically. Montmorency tart cherry juice contains one of the only food source concentrations of melatonin that clinical research has shown to produce a measurable, reproducible effect on the duration and quality of stage 3 deep sleep. Not a pharmaceutical dose. Not a supplement level. A food dose. And that distinction matters enormously because the goal is not to force unconsciousness with a synthetic melatonin spike. The goal is to extend and deepen the natural sleep stages where testosterone production is already trying to occur. A peer-reviewed clinical trial published in the European Journal of Nutrition found that participants consuming Montmorency tart cherry juice for 7 consecutive days experienced significant increases in melatonin bioavailability and measurable improvements in sleep efficiency, with the most pronounced effects appearing in slow-wave sleep. Separate research has established a direct correlation between slow-wave sleep duration and overnight testosterone production in men. More deep sleep means a longer, more complete hormonal production cycle. Tart cherry juice extends the factory's operating hours. Pumpkin seeds stock the factory floor. Together, they create conditions your body has not experienced since your late 40s. Not because something artificial has been added, but because the two things that were missing have been restored at the same time. The second mechanism of the tart cherry that I want you to understand directly addresses the third problem. The vascular inflammation that prevents testosterone from fully expressing itself in penile tissue by morning. Montmorency tart cherries contain a high concentration of anthocyanins, the pigment compounds responsible for their deep red color. Anthocyanins are among the most potent food-sourced inhibitors of the COX-1 and COX-2 inflammatory enzymes in the nutritional literature. When anthocyanins are circulating in your bloodstream during sleep, they are actively reducing the low-grade vascular inflammation in the smooth muscle tissue of the penile blood vessels. They are keeping those vessels more relaxed, more responsive, and more capable of the rapid dilation that morning erections require. You are not just producing testosterone overnight. You are maintaining the vascular environment that allows that testosterone to physically express itself in the tissue that responds to it. More testosterone produced. Longer production window. Cleaner, less inflamed vascular pathway for that testosterone to travel. 3 problems, 2 foods, 1 protocol. I want to tell you about a patient before I give you the exact method, because his experience captures something that clinical language tends to miss entirely. He was 71 years old, a retired civil engineer, and he came into my practice after more than 2 years of what he described simply as things not working the way they should. He was not a man who dramatized. He gave me the facts clearly, answered my questions directly, and at the end of the appointment asked me what I thought was actually going on. I gave him the factory explanation. I told him about the night shift, the depleted raw materials, the shortened production window. He listened carefully, asked one specific question about the tart cherry variety, wrote it down in a small notebook, and left. 3 weeks later he called my office. He did not lead with bedroom results, though those came. He called to tell me that his wife had asked him at breakfast one morning, out of nowhere, what had changed. Not at night. At the kitchen table over coffee. She noticed his energy before either of them had consciously registered that anything was different. He was more present in the conversation. He was laughing at something in the newspaper. He was, in his wife's words, back. He said to me, "Dr. Anderson, I did not expect the first sign to show up over coffee." I have thought about that moment many times since, because it describes something that gets lost in how we discuss erectile function. What men are actually missing when testosterone production degrades is not only what happens in one specific context at night. It is the baseline energy, the ease, the presence, the way a man inhabits a room and a conversation and a relationship. The morning erection is the report card, but what it represents is the full overnight production run. And its effects reach everywhere. Here is exactly how to do this. The timing window is 60 to 90 minutes before sleep. Not immediately before bed. Not at dinner. 60 to 90 minutes is specific because it allows the zinc and magnesium from the pumpkin seeds to begin absorption and reach bioavailable levels in your bloodstream before the deep sleep cycle initiates. And it gives the melatonin precursors from the tart cherry enough time to begin shifting your body toward the sleep architecture you are working to create. Too early and the compounds are partially metabolized before they are most needed. Too late, and you are still actively digesting when you should be descending into stage 3. Take 30 grams of raw pumpkin seeds, a small, loose palmful. Eat them slowly. Take 2 to 3 minutes. This matters because the mechanical breakdown during thorough chewing begins the enzymatic processes that make zinc and L-arginine more bioavailable before they reach the stomach. If you find raw pumpkin seeds difficult to eat plain, lightly toasting them without oil at low heat is acceptable and does not meaningfully degrade the active compounds. What you cannot substitute are roasted salted pumpkin seeds. The sodium content in commercially prepared varieties creates an overnight fluid retention effect that directly impairs mineral absorption. Raw or lightly toasted without added salt only. Within 10 minutes of finishing the seeds, drink 240 milliliters of Montmorency tart cherry juice, approximately 1 cup. Pure juice, no added sugar, no blends, no concentrate diluted with apple juice to reduce the manufacturer's cost. Read the label carefully. Drink it at room temperature, not cold. This is a detail that sounds minor and is not. Cold liquids in the pre-sleep window trigger a mild, but real cortisol response as your body works to maintain core temperature. Cortisol, even in small amounts at this hour, compresses deep sleep architecture. The exact thing you are working to extend with the cherry. Room temperature protects the conditions you are trying to create. 3 specific things will cancel this protocol, and I want you to know all of them before you begin. The first is alcohol within 2 hours of the combination. Even 1 drink. Alcohol suppresses stage 3 NREM sleep and increases light sleep in the first half of the night. The direct opposite of the architecture you are working to extend. A single drink 2 hours before bed has been shown in sleep research to reduce slow-wave sleep duration by up to 20%. You are extending the factory's operating hours with the cherry juice. Alcohol cuts power to the facility by nearly a fifth before the shift can complete. If you want to drink with dinner, finish it at least 2 hours before the protocol window. The second is intense physical exercise within 90 minutes of taking the combination. Hard training elevates core body temperature and activates the sympathetic nervous system, the system responsible for alertness and wakefulness. Stage 3 sleep requires the opposite, a drop in core temperature and a shift toward parasympathetic dominance. If you train in the evenings, finish at least 90 minutes before the protocol begins. The third is eating a high-sugar snack alongside or within 30 minutes of the combination. A blood glucose spike in the pre-sleep window triggers an insulin response that directly suppresses the melatonin signaling the tart cherry is working to create. The natural sugars in the cherry juice are paired with the fiber and anthocyanins that modulate the glycemic response. A separate sugar source on top removes that modulation and works directly against the mechanism. In terms of what to expect and when, in the first 2 to 3 days, most men notice something in their sleep before they notice anything in their erections. Sleep becomes slightly deeper. Waking through the night decreases. Some men describe their sleep as feeling more complete, less like they have simply been unconscious and more like they have genuinely rested. This is the stage 3 architecture beginning to improve, and it is not a minor thing. Better slow-wave sleep of this quality is already changing the testosterone production environment at a biological level, even if you cannot yet feel the downstream result. Between days 4 and 7, the mineral replenishment is accumulating and testosterone synthesis is running with better supply than it has had in months or potentially years. Most men in this window begin noticing morning energy before they notice morning firmness, an aliveness on waking that was not there before. Less of the foggy, reluctant, heavy entry into the day that so many men over 60 accept as simply normal without realizing it is neither inevitable nor permanent. Between days 7 and 14, the first physical evidence appears. Not every morning and not yet with full consistency, but the first morning you wake up and notice unmistakable firmness, real full-held firmness, is usually somewhere in this window. When that morning arrives, do not dismiss it as coincidence. It is your body reporting on what happened between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. It is the factory showing you the overnight production cycle actually completed. By day 21, consistency arrives. Most mornings. And with that consistency comes something harder to quantify, but equally real. A return of confidence that does not come from one particular moment, but from the background knowledge that your body is responding again, that your biology is working the way it is supposed to. Men describe feeling more grounded, more settled in themselves, more willing to be fully present in their relationships without the weight of anticipated disappointment sitting underneath everything. I want to speak to you directly now. Not clinically. As someone who has spent over 20 years sitting with the weight that this specific conversation carries for the men who finally allow themselves to have it. What men are grieving when this part of their life fades is not only the physical act. It is the confidence of inhabiting your own body without fear. The ease of intimacy when you are not running an internal negotiation about whether tonight will be different. The way a man carries himself through a day when his biology is working correctly. The steadiness, the presence, the willingness to fully occupy his own life rather than manage it from a careful distance. Most men carry this entirely alone. They minimize it with their partners. They tell themselves it is aging, it is normal, it is simply the price of the years they have lived. It is not the price. It is the consequence of a factory that was never given the raw materials and the operating time it needed to finish its work. And that is fixable. I have watched it become fixed in men in their late 60s, their 70s, men who had not had a reliable morning erection in years. Not because they were lucky, because they gave their body what it had been waiting for. Your factory never shut down. It just ran short on supplies and was given increasingly shorter shifts. You now know exactly what it needs, and you know how to give it that tonight. Here is what I am asking you to do. Tonight, not this weekend. Not when you feel more ready. Go to your kitchen. Raw pumpkin seeds are in every grocery store, usually near the nuts and dried fruit. Montmorency tart cherry juice is in the juice aisle of most grocery stores, universally available at health food stores, and orderable online with next-day delivery. These are not rare or expensive ingredients. They cost less than a cup of coffee per night combined. 60 to 90 minutes before you sleep tonight, eat a small palmful of the seeds slowly, and drink a cup of the cherry juice at room temperature. Do that for 7 consecutive nights, then come back to this video and leave me a comment. Tell me what the first thing was that you noticed. Not what you hope to notice, what you actually notice first. Better sleep, morning energy, something you did not expect. Your specific experience helps every man who reads your comment after you understand what the early signals of this protocol actually look like in a real body, rather than a clinical paper. I read every comment on this channel. Every single one. If you know a man, a friend, a brother, someone who has quietly stopped talking about things he once spoke about freely, send this video to him. You do not need to explain why. You do not need to have a conversation about it. Just send it. He may never bring it up, but he will watch. And what he finds in it may be something he has been searching for without being willing to ask out loud. Hit the like button if today gave you something concrete. It tells YouTube to show this information to more men who are searching for exactly what you found here, and who have not found it yet. Subscribe to Vital Health Seniors if you have not already, because in 2 weeks I am releasing what I believe is one of the most practically useful videos I have made for this channel. I am going to walk you through a simple, no-equipment method you can use in your own bedroom to estimate how long your stage 3 sleep window currently runs each night. If that number is under 90 minutes, and it is for the majority of men over 60 who have never specifically addressed their sleep environment, you are leaving testosterone production on the table every single night. You will know your number, you will understand what it means, and you will know what to do about it. Subscribers see that video first. Be there for it. I am Dr. Mei Anderson. This is Vital Health Seniors. The factory is still running. You just gave it what it needed to finish the job. I will see you in the next video.